On a chilly day in 1968, oil was discovered in Prudhoe Bay on Alaska's northern coast, forever altering the history of the largest state in the Union. The Prudhoe Bay oilfield brought the first drops of North Slope crude and long-standing issues of indigenous land claims bubbling to the surface. The issue? The oil was discovered on native land, and the young Alaska government needed to resolve disputes surrounding Aboriginal title before they could develop their newfound resource. A group of young Alaska Native leaders realized the significance and the risk associated with the discovery. They saw before them the history of the government's interaction with lower 48 tribes, of broken treaties and reservations, and they were determined to work within the legal framework of the Alaska and United States constitutions to maintain legal rights to their land and secure equality through a fair settlement. These leaders worked diligently and strategically to make certain that decisions facing native lands remain in native hands. They sought a new, groundbreaking solution, forever altering the destiny of Alaska's first people, the 49th state, and the nation. The story of the Inupiat of Northwest Alaska, the ancestors of today's NANA shareholders, began a millennia before the discovery of oil and long before statehood. The first Inupiat, the real people, crossed a land bridge that connected Asia to what is now Alaska, and were inventors and innovators once they settled in their new home. Hunting Arctic animals, they designed new styles of spears and harpoons equipped with weights and floats. They made boats constructed of watertight sealskin stretched over wooden frames, called kayak and umiak. They trained dogs to pull long sleds over the frozen tundra. The pulse of the Inupiat was this lifestyle of subsistence or hunting and fishing activities. All of these advances promoted the formation of the Inupiat calendar and the social, religious, and artistic values which can still be seen in the culture today. In the 1500s, Russians began to journey across the dangerous Chukchi Sea, looking for new trade routes to Asia. While the search for trade routes proved fruitless, the expeditions pulled the curtain on Alaska's abundance of furs. On a single expedition, Russian seamen caught 900 sea otters and even more foxes. On the Chinese market, a single otter pelt was worth over 16 years of wages, a fortune for anyone who could survive the dangerous trip. By the 1800s, American influence was present, but still minimal in the northern region. Ancestors of today's shareholders were living in 14 distinct tribal areas. The language they developed, Inupiatun, was then, and still is, divided into two dialect groups, the coastal and Upper Kobuk dialect. In the summer of 1867, Russia ceded Alaska to the United States in a deal engineered by then Secretary of State William H. Seward. As part of the Treaty of Cession, the United States received all rights that Russia had to the region, including the right to negotiate land claims with Alaska's native people. In exchange, Russia received $7,200,000 in gold, or roughly 3 cents per acre. As the century came to a close, the Inupiat had to adapt to the new cultures and laws that were introduced by the new cohabitors.
Once the Americans took over, we had a new regime. And we had no rights to speak of. If the Congress and the Alaskan political leaders of the time had their way, they were going to steal over 100 million acres of land. We were never going to get it back. And that's what really turned me into an activist, because if we didn't do something, it was going to be gone.
In May of 1966, a young Alaska native, Willie Hensley, wrote a graduate paper at the University of Alaska Fairbanks entitled, "What Rights to Land Have the Alaska Natives? The Primary Issue."
The Organic Act of 1884 promised protection to Alaska Natives. That said something like Alaska Natives would not be disturbed in their use and occupation or any lands claimed by them. Well, when I saw that, when I did that research paper, I thought, wow, we claim it all.
Came to the conclusion that Alaska was still Aboriginal land. That meant that Alaska Natives held title to the resource-rich lands that the American government and the world's oil companies wanted to develop. Signed into law by President Nixon in 1971, the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act, or ANCSA, is the largest land claims settlement in United States history. Alaska Natives received 44 million acres of land, transferred to 12 Alaska Native regional corporations, and more than 200 village corporations. ANCSA transferred the surface and subsurface rights of 2.2 million acres in northwest Alaska to the Inupiat people, now organized under NANA Regional Corporation. For thousands of years, the hunting of beluga whale, caribou, and bearded seal promised security for Inupiat people. Our world has changed, but the same spirit of innovation and provision has secured the traditional way of life for today's generations of Alaska Natives. We are the Inupiat of Northwest Alaska. We are NANA.